Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Bro, we get to finally talk about two phones that I think are probably going to be the most in-demand phones of 2020, and rightfully so. So we have the Samsung Galaxy S20 that was just announced as the killer device. You guys know, this phone is going to be one of the best phones of this year by far. It has tons of cool features and everything. But on the opposite end, the Samsung Galaxy S10e was actually the last year budget phone, and you might think like, bro, what does this phone have anything to do with the top tier model? Why are you even comparing these two? Well, believe it or not, first of all, Samsung is still selling the Samsung Galaxy S10e, but the S10e was actually one of the best selling phones, not the best selling phone, but for the S10 series, the S10e was actually a very good selling phone for Samsung, and I'm surprised they still didn't do an E series this year. It was probably had a lot to do with Samsung really. A lot of phones are not being sold anymore. Just phone manufacturers are seeing a decline in sale prices, so they might as well increase the prices rather than sell more budget phones, but Samsung still sells a bunch of them, which I don't really understand the logic. But also the price tag of the S10e just makes it more compelling for you to buy even in the new market, or better yet, even in the used market, dude. The used prices for the S10e are killer, and I would highly recommend picking one up if you're in the market for a cheaper phone. Now, S20 brand new, talking about prices for a second, the Galaxy S20 costs $1,000 brand new. It's not depreciated at all. It's not even for sale in a lot of places yet. I got mine early, surprisingly, from Samsung, even though I bought mine. They didn't send me out one or anything like that, so all these opinions are mine that I'm not bought and paid for. The S10e, on the other hand, it started off with, I think, a price tag at $750 or $749 or whatever the case was. It was, around that area. Right now, you can pick one up on Amazon for about $370, which is extremely cheap. And by the time you're watching this, if you're watching this months down the line after me making this comparison, it might be even cheaper than that. So that's a very good price to pay for a phone like this. The S10e is completely usable. It still has so much going for it. And for a price for $370, that's extremely cheap. And you're getting a better price per value from an S10e than you are from an S20 in my opinion. So if you want to pick up either of these phones that I just said for those prices that I just said, I'll leave them linked down in the description. They'll take you to Amazon. You can buy them from there and help support the channel at the same time. But looking on the front of both these devices, the Samsung Galaxy S10e, when it was released and even now, has a 5.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It is a 1080p display, but it's a good 1080p display. It's not bad at all. It pretty much has the same type of screen size as the iPhone 10 or the iPhone 11 Pro. I keep saying iPhone 10. I feel like an old person when I say that. But the S10e has a very good panel, 438 pixels per inch, and it's not a bad panel at all. The best thing about it, it has that hole punch display, so it doesn't feel dated that much. If you look at something like an iPhone 11, for example, that thing has a huge notch in the middle of it, and even compared to the Galaxy S20, there's really not that much missing out in it from an S20 to an S10e, to be honest. So I think the S10e is still completely fine in terms of the way it looks and everything, so I wouldn't even worry about it in terms of that. With the Galaxy S20, believe it or not, has a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display. Technically, it's like 0.1 inches bigger than a Galaxy S10. Not a big deal at all, but if you like it, then you like it, you know what I mean? And it has a 1440p display on that with 563 pixels per inch. And that panel is very good, and obviously, if I had to pick one, the Galaxy S20 might be the better way to go. It has more going for it overall, as well as, a bigger display and a little bit less bezel. And I kind of like bigger displays over smaller displays. I think everybody kind of knows that by now. So between both, you do have a pretty killer type of design on both of them. Fairly similar. The hole punch display is on the middle of the S20. But the biggest thing about the Galaxy S20 with that display is that 120Hz refresh rate. Last year, if you remember, that 90Hz refresh rate was killer. A lot of people were freaking out about it on the OnePlus 7 Pro. And now we saw that a couple times, 120Hz, on several other phones. But this one took it to a whole nother level. The fact that it's almost bezel-less, it has, very little bezel, whole bunch display, just looks so nice. And for a phone that's being commercially available like everywhere, the Galaxy S20 really did do its justice with its display. So I'd give it a thumbs up in my books for that display, especially with that 120Hz refresh rate. On the bottom, you can see we have USB Type-C on both phones. Headphone jack only on the Galaxy S10e though. It might not be a big deal to a lot of people, but you do have that functionality on the Samsung Galaxy S10e, where you do not have that on the Samsung Galaxy S20. On the back, you can see glass backs on both and a little bit of a different camera setup. As you can see, the Samsung Galaxy S10e has a dual camera setup. The Samsung Galaxy S20 has a triple camera setup. And really between both of them, one doesn't really kill the other one in terms of at least the hardware. But as you can see, the Galaxy S20 definitely is the better camera sensor overall. If you're just somebody who just wants to take photos and then quickly move on with their day, you probably won't notice that big of a difference. But for sure, the Samsung Galaxy S20 will definitely do you much better in terms of the camera department than the Samsung Galaxy S10e. S10e. Both have IP certification. They both have IP68 dust and water resistance, so you can go up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. And both have microSD card slots, so you can easily expand that storage. That's a really, really awesome feature that both phones have. And in terms of the way they feel in the hand, they both feel almost the same. Like, of course, the S20 feels much, much better. It feels better in the hand, but and it just looks better. But the Galaxy S10e still has a lot going for it, and to kind of say that it's not good or anything like that is not fair to say, because the S10e is still completely usable in every which way you look at it. So that really pretty much covers it up in terms of that standpoint. Now, hitting on the software, the Samsung Galaxy S10e was released with Android Pie, officially with One UI actually. We are able to get One UI 2 on it, where the Samsung Galaxy S20 started off with One UI 2. So technically speaking, realistically, the Samsung Galaxy S10e is probably going to get one more version of software, and that's it. Where the Samsung Galaxy S20 is going to be getting 2 more versions of software. Is the end of the world? Is it craziness? Not really. It really just depends how you look at it. The S10e, if Samsung goes to the way that they're continuously going right now, then that's the way it is. That's, nothing's going to change. But if Samsung actually goes and tries to innovate themselves again and start pushing those software cycles that they should, and extending the software lifecycle to match iOS, or even just a couple, maybe even 1 year less than iOS, then that would be really crazy. Even if they were to keep those same software updates as the Google Pixel line, that would still be pretty impressive. So Samsung has a choice. They need to go and do that. Obviously, nobody's forcing them to do it, but that would be a smart thing to do. The Samsung Galaxy S20 realistically is probably going to last longer than the Samsung Galaxy S10e in terms of software. And that pretty much covers it up there. Now, hitting on the performance, I did a little bit of a speed test between them too, so you can kind of look at it while I'm telling the specs. The Galaxy S10e came out with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 640 GPU, and there were 2 different models, 128 and 256 gig models. The base model had 6 gigabytes of RAM. The top tier model had 8 gigabytes of RAM. On the S20, we had a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 650 GPU, and there's only one model of the S20, which is a 12 gigabyte model. And I don't know why they only put one model on the S20. They should have put multiple ones, but it is what it is. I'm not going to freak out about it too much. Now, in terms of the actual hardware itself and the performance, as you guys saw, the S20 was blazing fast. It was extremely smooth, and there's very little to hate on the S20. It has so much going for it, and it's just a crazy phone, man. It has literally so much going for it, and I love that phone for it. But the S10e, even though it's pretty much behind the S20 every single time in every single comparison, it's still a very killer phone, and I still think it has a lot going for it for sure. The S10e, with its older chipsets and, with its 6 gigabytes of RAM, it has half the RAM as the S20. You kind of still have to give it the benefit of the doubt sometimes. And I'll do a whole separate speed test on both these phones, so this is not the end all be all. This is not like my final answer on these, but definitely for sure the Samsung Galaxy S20 is the better performing phone, whichever way you look at it, in terms of RAM management, in terms of app opening speeds, in terms of app loading speeds. All that stuff is going to be faster on the Samsung Galaxy S20 than on the Samsung Galaxy S10e. But the S10e is still a pretty good performing phone at the end of the day. And that pretty much covers it up there. Now, hitting on the cameras, like I said with the speed comparison, I'm going to do my whole separate video test comparison between these 2 cameras as well. So keep it locked down on the channel so you don't miss that video whenever that comes out. So this is just going to briefly hit on them a little bit. The Samsung Galaxy S10e has 2 cameras on the back, a 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, and then a 16 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, where the Samsung Galaxy S20 has a 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, a 64 megapixel telephoto lens, and then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, and those cameras on the S20 are very good. This S10e's camera are still pretty good as well, but the S20 for sure, with that additional lens, just screams, great quality of cameras on those. Now on the front, 10 megapixel cameras on both of them. However, the Samsung Galaxy S20 can do 4K at 60 frames, where we cannot do that on the Samsung Galaxy S10e, only 4K at 30. Might not be a big deal to a lot of people, but it might be a big deal to some people, so kind of keep that in mind. Now on that back camera, we do have that additional telephoto lens, which is really, really nice, and I like seeing that. But I think the biggest addition to the Samsung Galaxy S20 would definitely be 8K video resolution frame rate filming. With that, we're able to shoot 8K videos, which for a lot of people, I'm going to be honest, is completely pointless. I don't know why you'd ever do that. It's just one of those features that is cool. It's like a novelty, but realistically, I wouldn't recommend anybody using it. But like I said, you have that capability to do it. Whether you want to use it or not, you have that capability at the end of the day. So as of right now, the Samsung Galaxy S20 by far is the better camera. It has so many more features. It has so much better quality as far as I've tested. But again, like I stated, the S10e is still a very good camera for 90% of people out there. I'm sure they're going to be perfectly fine with an S10e camera. So that pretty much covers it up there. Now ending on the battery life, the Samsung Galaxy S10e has a 3100 mAh battery. The Samsung Galaxy S20 has a 4000 mAh battery. Both have wireless charging, both have reverse wireless charging, and I think the S20 probably will last longer than the S10e, but the other caveat to that is if you have that 120Hz refresh rate display on the Samsung Galaxy S20, that'll probably end up meaning that the S10e might actually end up having better battery life in the long run. It's not an end all be all though, because if you turn that off, I truly do believe that the Samsung Galaxy S20 actually has a better battery life overall than the Samsung Galaxy S10e, so that is kind of one thing to keep in mind. But like I said, depending on whether you have it on or off, that really does depend on the battery life that you're going to have out of that device. So if you have it on, the S10e wins, but if you have it off, the S20 probably wins there. So to kind of sum up this comparison and kind of answer the question, should you get an S10e? Should you get an S20? Should you upgrade from an S10e to an S20? Whatever the case is. I'll tell you this, if you have all the money in the world, obviously go for the Samsung Galaxy S20. That is the much better phone that has much more going for it. And if you have all the money, you can get that phone and still keep it for many more years and not have to worry about another phone for a couple, at least 3 years. But if you want to save the most amount of money and get the better bang for your dollar between both these phones, the Samsung Galaxy S10e is the better way to go. That phone costs less than $400, it's like $370. You're getting much better value from that, and it's still going to get another version of software on top of the new one that it just got, so it's still going to last you for a couple more years there too. So the S20 by far is the better phone, but the S10e is, I think, the better value probably. So that covers it up here. Like I said, a dedicated camera test and a dedicated speed test is coming very soon, so make sure you guys don't miss those. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.